Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of 30 Minutes, the interactive program of Trust Television. My guest today is Professor Nuhu Omeiza Yaqub, the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, as well as the pioneer Vice Chancellor of the Sokoto State University. Professor, welcome to the program.
Thank you so very much.
It's not every day we get distinguished professors like you who started at the Usmanu Danfodio University when it was called University of Sokoto.
That's right.
Almost like 40 odd years ago, after your education at Bayero University and the University of Toronto, and also the University of Sussex, that is in Canada and the UK respectively.
That's right.
You've been in the university system all through your working life. What will you say is the high point of that long career?
Thank you so very much. I think let me first of all start by thanking Allah on behalf of Trust Television for this marvelous studio. I've been invited to come and participate in this program. Trust has already established itself in print media, and I'm very happy that it's also going to take a TV transmission to a higher notch. So I pray Allah will continue to guide and direct people.
Amen.
As you have been doing very patriotically to this country. Having said this, thank you so very much. I retired last year from university teaching. And at that point, I had spent up to almost 40 years, because I started teaching at University of Sokoto, which turned out to be University of Osman Danfodio University now, in August 1981. So by last year, I was almost 40 years. In March when I retired.
And you didn't just teach and research. Yeah. You rose at that university to be the Deputy Vice Chancellor.
Vice Chancellor. I was head of department at a point, and also Dean of the Faculty of Social Science and Administration at another point, and also became the coordinator of 4 faculties. We were having what we call collegiate system at that point. I don't know what is it now. And under the collegiate system, we had the Arts and Humanities Complex, and I was the coordinator of this complex, which basically involved assisting colleagues who will have to. We had our own separate budget for research, for conferences, and also for general administration within the complex in terms of examination, and so on and so forth.
And all that experience kind of prepared you for the higher role of Deputy Vice Chancellor before becoming Vice Chancellor.
That's right. So I think the high point, let me put it this way, that the high point for me was that I even got to work and teach in the university. Because when I went in, my ambition was at a point in time, I want to be a professor.
Right.
And I was professor in 1998, just after about
17 or so years.
Yes, going through the ranks.
Yes.
Because the institutions you mentioned, I had to take time, on fellowship to attend my programs, culminating in my, getting my doctorate degree at Sussex University in the UK. So, alhamdulillah, it was just smooth ride, I would say. And therefore, I think the foundation is very important. It's the high point for me, as far as I'm concerned, because I had the opportunity to actually achieve my ambition in life. I remember, for instance, when I was, I attended School for Arabic Studies for my grade 2 and also secondary education. And
SAS
in Kano.
Right.
And I had a classmate who is late now, may Allah, continue to guide him in Al-Jannah Firdaus. Sheikh Atiku, he was the chief judge of Kano State before he retired, and he, after clocking 70, before he died. And one day he was already at Ahmadu Bello University, studying law, and I was in Advanced Teachers College, Kano,
yes,
doing my NCE. Yes. And he asked the question, Nuhu, if I graduate from Ahmadu Bello University, I'm going to be a lawyer. If you graduate, where are you going to be? I know you are in a Advanced Teachers College. What are you going to do? What is your ambition? And I said, well, I hope I also get to the university, at a point in time. And when I get to the university, I really want to, try and, excel in my studies.
Right.
So that I can come back to the university, as a lecturer. That was fine.
And that was fulfilled.
And I got it. So
right.
The high point for me is that I got into the university, and whatever I achieved afterwards is just, built on that foundation.
Just, as they say, it's just the jara.
The jara, that's right.
Right.
It was just the foundation. It enhanced the foundation for me.
So then you got appointed as a university vice chancellor in the federal capital here. That's the University of Abuja.
That's right.
2004
yes.
to 2009.
Nice.
Right,
5
years
exactly.
Tenure, single tenure.
That's right.
How did you cope with that?
Well, I think, again, there is God's intervention here. As I have actually come to realize that everything I have become is just by the wish and will of God. I couldn't have influence any such thing. When we came for interview for this particular appointment, three of us were submitting. Our names were submitted to then President Obasanjo, who was the president before. The ASU struggle and now make the governing council to be the appointing agency. Yes, on behalf of so Obasanjo, the head of state was still the one that will will look at the recommendation and pick anyone on the list, as long as your name is among the list. They have the 3 names,
right,
sent to the president. And I must say again that it was divine, intervention, because 3 of us, they listed us, according to what the Boundary Governing Council called the performance level.
Right.
And I was number 3.
So it was probably the least chance of getting...
I just, gave up that, well, I tried my best, at least, I was considered out of 10 or 11 of us that attended the interview. Right. If third position is not a bad thing. It will go into my records, whatever is value. What was to happen? Within the period of the interview and the point of appointment, the campus here in University of Abuja was simply divided into 2 camps. The first 2 candidates, they politicized the whole thing. You had one who is a Christian, another one a Muslim, and it became, a question of, which is religious candidate, which
right.
will ex.
So that's like paved the way for you to be the
it got to point. I think Obasanjo was advised, look, this campus, indeed they were advertising in the papers, attacking one another.
Right.
And they just said, this man coming from outside the campus, because I was, I came from University of Osman Danfodio, so I was an external candidate. He said, this man that is coming from outside, who is, has no camp on the campus, is likely to be the one that will, create peace on the campus. If you choose any one of these 2, you are going to end up having, crisis.
You've just touched on one of the, issues that is considered strange to have gone into the university. Now there are agitations for vice chancellors to be from the locality.
Yeah, exactly.
There was the recent case in the University of Ibadan where some people were saying, look, there has been no VC from Ibadan itself.
Yeah.
How come we've gone so low now that in the academics where you assume the excellence and all of those other considerations will be the main thing? What has gone wrong?
I try to look at it even from my own professional discipline, which is political science. And when you talk about politics, you talk about interest. Okay? And unfortunately, the environment in Nigeria generally is so politicized. In fact, I'll call it polluted politicization. And that is exactly what is happening. To the extent that, as you said, the university is supposed to be center of excellence. And anybody who will aspire to be both the administrative and academic head of the institution should be assessed on the basis of merit. How much has the individual contributed to scholarship? And what is the influence? I mean, how global, how visionary, and what kind of program is coming up with? That has actually been sacrificed. Unfortunately, we have also a historical trend. Before, even shortly after independence, there was also the battle between, when it came to the appointment of the VC of University of Lagos in the early 60s.
Yes, yes, I do remember those cases.
Yes, in Yaqub, I've forgotten this, late professor, who was professor of history, and Yoruba. Not even Ajayi.
Yeah, there's another, is it Biobaku?
Biobaku, that's right.
Professor
and
Saburi
it was so publicized that, even lecturers were prepared to exchange, blows.
So it's always been there, maybe under the surface.
Yeah, it was not as bad as it
is. The huge competition now is bringing it out because some people are desperate to
to be vice
and they are ready to whip up some devices.
And unfortunately, also, I think the way we have, handled politics, especially since the adventure of the military into Nigerian politics, explains why everything is so politicized. Because if you had left, real politicking to the politicians and win the university system completely from politics, probably it would not have been so degenerate. What we are now having is that everybody thinks, we have to think in terms of where we come from, what comes to us. And when you have a candidate who is not of your ethnic or religious stock, people going to say, oh, if he gets there, he's going to serve the interests of the people where he's coming from, or to whom he has either religious affiliation. And that is, and again, I need to also stress this one. I've been stressing it in my writings. I think the federal character provision in the Constitution has worsened the situation for us. It is good to get everybody on equal representation. Right. There's no problem with that. But to the extent that you now say, to build this country, we need to have every section to be represented. And the positions are very few. In fact, that is also one point that one will have to stress. Vice chancellorship has become, although we have many universities now, but the position is becoming shrunk in the sense that we have so many people who are competing at the same time for one position. And the other thing is that the universities themselves seem to be disconnected from the rest of the society. This town and gown thing. That because you wonder, where are the universities in terms of the challenges we face, say, in agriculture? Exactly. Those are the issues. All the other areas. Those are the issues. And, I also want to, when I was at Sussex doing my PhD, the post of the Vice Chancellor became vacant. The person who was leaving, was a distinguished scholar, a professor of long standing. Do you know when it was time to replace him with a new Vice Chancellor? The University Council went to Brussels, EU capital, and recruited an Englishman who was just a technocrat. A technocrat who knew exactly, he excelled in his field. And they said, this man is likely to take the university to the next level. And they brought him as Vice Chancellor. He was not, but of course, he had scholarly background. Right. More of a technocrat. More of a technocrat. But they brought him in, and the University of Sussex has been, high over there. It's just up there in the ranking of British universities. So the standard didn't come down. And I think what, Nigerians should actually begin to look at is, yes, this man is coming. What is the structure on the ground? How is he going to work within the structure? Is he going to, vandalize it? Because this is what is happening in some universities. You go there, you discover that the person who is there is more or less a contractor.
I think on that note, we'll go on a short break and resume our exchange shortly.
Thank you.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us now, it is the interactive program of Trust Television that is 30 minutes. And our guest today is the former Vice Chancellor of Abuja University as well as the State University of Sokoto, Professor Nuhu Yaqub. Professor, before we went on the break, you are talking about how low the universities, the Nigerian universities have gone. And then what you tend to see is a disconnect, not just between the town and gown, but also between people who are supposed to be in authority in Nigeria. Because of recent, what you tend to hear more is more universities being brought to life by the federal authorities. The latest being the 6 medical universities that are supposed to go to all those different areas of the country. Does it make sense to continue to pile this number when, the quality is not there, and when the number of trained people who are supposed to be imparting knowledge, doing research, are not there?
In fact, I want to put this question, which is so central to what is happening in contemporary times. That is, ASU is on strike, okay? And ASU is on strike because of poor funding, particularly in the university system, especially at the federal level. And we will expect federal government to actually visit this point very seriously and factor it into, what is the agenda for opening new universities we are talking about. You cannot fund adequately the existing number of universities you have, and you are creating new ones. What is going on? This is the question, for me. I'm not retired, but I'm worried that do you come and heap, you have rubbish in front of your house, and instead of you to make effort to evacuate the rubbish, you come and heap more.
Actually, there is a Hausa adage, which is like the mad woman's bundle. She gathers some stuff. She tries to put it on her head. She couldn't. So what did she do? The next thing is she gathered even more and filed them.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. So I think that, yes, if we have inadequate medical facilities, already we have several teaching hospitals that are lacking in essential equipment and personnel. For goodness sake, why can't government direct its attention and try as much as possible, instead of opening these new universities, to strengthen the ones that are already existing and make sure that they actually compare. In fact, when I had this, when I was writing a particular paper and I was looking at, where did Nigerian universities excel when they began in the 60s? Yes. And I discovered that University of Ibadan Teaching Hospital, what they call the University College of Hospital, UCH, was within the first 4 universities, excellent universities in the Commonwealth in the 60s. The princes of Saudi Arabia, they were coming to UCH for medical treatment. Whereas at the moment, even our head of state, our president goes out.
So, anybody who can, depending on his pocket, go to the UK or India or
or Egypt.
Egypt. Right.
And I asked myself, I said, what has gone wrong? Because this is a serious underdevelopment and backwardness.
Is it just the numbers? Because when I was reading up, I saw that countries like Ethiopia, that has nearly the number of, the kind of population, and all of that as Nigeria, it has just about 130 universities. South Africa has just about 20-something public universities and less than 60 ones. And then Egypt also has just 20 public universities or 22, and then 23 private ones. Yet Nigeria, the number we have is just astonishing, and we are just piling.
I think what is happening,
both private and public.
Yeah, what is happening, in fact, linked again to the point about Federal Character Commission I talked about earlier, you discover that, members of the National Assembly are the ones also proposing.
Yes, every member wants a university in his locality. Where is the NUC and where are all the other authorities who are supposed to advise against this, that it doesn't make sense?
This is also the question. I think there is a need to re-evaluate our policy trajectories and enunciations.
But what about the Me Too universities that seems to be coming up in the states? That's like the university where you were, BC, the State University in Sokoto. You have states that are not filling their quota in existing universities, yet they are rushing to also set up universities.
Well, it complicates the issue. But I can even understand states. I would give them the credit for, because at a point, when Sokoto State University, for instance, was set up, this question was asked: why are you setting up, a new university when Osman Danfodio could not even fill this quota for
Sokoto students?
Yes, that is in Osman Danfodio. But at the same time, we discovered that, because of the quota system, and, there's this, there was this, procedure for admitting students.
Right.
National merit, educationally less advanced states, and catchment area, and so on. So when you use this criteria to admit students, there are states that will not have. Sokoto could be one of them. And I remember, because, luckily for me, as the foundation vice chancellor, and I want to also thank Sokoto State government for inviting me. Not even, probably because I have made my contribution in Sokoto State in terms of, contributing to the manpower development.
Right.
But I was not from that state. And yet the governor, expressed confidence in me and say, come on. And up to today, when I go to greet the governor, he said, no, you did very well. I said, thank you, sir.
And then there's the big elephant in the room, which you touched. ASU, the academic staff of universities that are now like another word for strike. They are even currently on another strike.
Yeah.
And the strike options seem to have been blunted. Now, like, few people remember, except parents and students who have their students sitting at home.
Exactly.
What is to be done about it?
No, I've just, I was at a conference of a committee of Pro-Chancellors of State Universities in Oshogbo this March. And I was asked to look at social issues affecting higher education. And one of them is the issue of, this ASU strike that I addressed. And I said, before, I used to argue that ASU should not be embarking on strike because you can never stop learning for 1 second. We keep on learning everything by the second. Right. So when you now say you are on strike, and to the extent that you spend, several weeks or months without, giving knowledge to students, there is actually a serious professional delinquency in that regard. So I was against it. But when I look at, I now put the entire, strike issue in perspective. And ASU is saying, government signed an agreement since 2009, and up till now they are unable to fulfill it.
Because of the constraints of money, which, some people have been saying, look, we have overrated university education. Yeah. Elsewhere is just a small fraction of the society that goes to the universities. And then elsewhere, you find that university education is funded both by the students and the government. Yeah. And then we don't have that situation. We want free university education.
This is the point. And I said, government ad initio made mistake by going to agreement they knew they would not be able to fulfill. That marks the government down. Government has no position morally. Secondly, ASU, I also said ASU should actually also go into negotiation and get encourage government to sign an agreement that is feasible, they can implement. It is not enough. In fact, luckily for us at this point in time, ASU is not striking against increase of salary or whatever. Even it is a subsidy, it's an issue, but it's subsidiary to the main issue. You don't have reagents in the lab. You don't have adequate, classrooms. Students will have to stand up to receive lectures. It's never done anywhere.
But what about all the internal revenue of universities that you see some VCs living big on?
Well, I don't know how some VCs, but because all I know is that when you collect school fees, and I have been, a party to collection of school fees at Abuja and Sokoto, we put it into the university either before, what do they call it, before the system of collecting revenue.
Centrally.
Centrally.
Yes.
And putting it into a government revenue system. What we will do is when we're designing our budget, especially in University of Abuja, we design our budget based on what we have and what government is likely to give us. And when we do it, we make sure that we also stay within our limit. And we're able to carry out, for instance, when I got to University of Abuja, I introduced what people now call money guzzling programs: medicine, engineering, veterinary medicine, and agriculture. These 4 programs. When I went to the university, I discovered that University of Abuja was only admitting about 28%, in the ratio of 28 to 82. The government, for a conventional university like University of Abuja, we are supposed to be admitting 60% of our students, or the ratio of 60, in science, and 40 in arts.
Which is a whole different issue to even discuss. The fact that a lot of the courses are kind of irrelevant or outdated to the reality of today. Can you, in just 30 seconds, because we have come to the end of say your views on this?
What I think it needs to be done is to actually encourage universities to stay within parameters set up by government, and let us also shed off the excess baggage. That is what is going to help us. In fact, I'm calling actually that the philosophy of education has to be reviewed, and also the mode of funding has to be reviewed. Let's allow universities to charge school fees. In fact, I'm agreeable to charging, even if it is token. Let them take, because people will also appreciate when they go to university and they pay.
On that note, we have come to the end of this edition of 30 Minutes. Thank you very much, Professor, for being our guest today.
Thank you so very much.
And viewers, thank you for keeping a date with us. Goodbye.